Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. This is Sharon from Mad Paper Crush. In today's video, we're going to be making some pockets out of book pages. If you watched my previous video, you know that I have a lot of these insides of the books where I've been using the covers for other projects, making different journals and books and things like that. But I have a ton of these with all of these book pages in them that need to be used up. I cannot throw them out. No good junk journaler would ever throw them out. So we are going to be making some pockets today with these book pages. So I'm going to show you some different types of pockets from different types of book pages. And this is just to get you going. So I see this as a way to sit in front of the TV on the couch and make a whole bunch of one kind, you know, like in a batch. And then you'll have them ready for your journals. So I'm going to show you just a couple of different types of pockets to make. This is certainly not an exhaustive list. If you search for junk journal book page pockets, you will get lots of different kinds of pockets. These are not all my ideas. Everybody, I've seen a lot of different videos where a lot of different people make these types of book page pockets. But I wanted to show you how I make them and give you an idea to maybe get some made ahead of time so that you can just come back and decorate them later so that they're ready to go in your journal whenever you're ready for them. So let's get started. The types of pockets that we're going to be making today are the completely simple ones where we just use one book page and fold it, one fold. So that one's easy peasy. We're also going to be making, if you have sturdier book pages that have a fold allowance so that it allows you to stuff more in that pocket. So we'll show you how to do that. We're going to be making library card type pockets. So these kind of remind me of the pockets that you see in the back of a book where a library card would go in for you to check it out. So we're going to be doing a couple of different ones of those. And then we're also going to be making this really cool triple pocket so that you can put some small things in the bottom and get bigger as they go up. So we're going to do that. We're also going to make this double pocket, but this one also has the fold allowances for you to be able to really stuff them with some good ephemera. And then we're also going to be making this one that's like a trifold type pocket. And that's what we're going to do. So get your paper, get your book pages ready, and come along with me and let's make some pockets. Okay, for our first pocket, we're just going to be using one book page. So this came from a book that is an older book. It's a little bit yellow, you can see, but it's not really vintage. It's kind of sturdy, but it's not pocket sturdy, I guess I could say. And all I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to add some glue to one half of the book page. So I want to be sure that I get glue all the way to the edges of the entire book page, because what we're going to do to create our base for our pocket is we're going to take this book page and we're going to just fold it over, fold it in half. Now, my pocket, if you want to cut off the edges here, we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to use my craft knife here to just kind of cut off these rough edges. But you certainly don't have to do that because that creates a look too. And this could be the base of a pocket. So I'm just going to pretend like this is one of my junk journal pages from a signature in my junk journal. And I could put my pocket right here and I could glue it down. To glue on a pocket, I would glue a side, the bottom, and a side. So those three sides, I would put my bead of glue right along there. And then I would place that down here and I would have my pocket at the top. Easy peasy. And the video is over now. You got pockets. Just kidding. But some things you need to think about for making these easy pockets is, number one, how wide do you want them to be? Like this is almost half the page, which might be totally fine if you want a pocket that big. You could also cut it down to make it smaller so that it's not so big. You could add some stitching around here just to give it some interest, and certainly you would want to add some collage or stickers or mixed media or something on here to give it a look as well. So here's another sample of the same thing. So this is just one that I cut down a little bit. And I would do the same thing. I would just glue the sides and the bottom, and then I would have a place to put some tags or note cards or whatever inside my book. So this is a very simple one that you can do, but it's also something very easy to do while you're watching TV. Just take those book pages, give them a glue, fold them over, and they're ready to go for when you want to create your pockets for your next journal that you're working on. Easy peasy. All right, so our second one is also fairly easy, and I'm going to be using a different type of book page. So instead of my older, just book page there, I'm going to be using something from, this one's called Flowering Plants of the World, and it's a little bit newer, and it's definitely a little bit thicker. So this page has a sheen to it a little bit, but it's also, it's a pretty durable page. So I don't need to do a lot of folding for, weight or anything like that on this one. You can see I've already started cutting some things. I like to fussy cut this book. It has some really great illustrations on it. But all I'm going to do for this one is I'm actually just going to cut this page down. And let's see, I think I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut it about where I want it. So we'll do this one. I'm going to do it this way so I have a straight edge. We'll do this one about the same as we did before, to make it about 3.5 inches wide for my book. Now you can see I want it to be 3.5 inches, but I'm actually going to cut it at 4 inches. So I'm leaving a 1/2 inch at the bottom of this so that we can fold it over. And I'll show you why we're going to do that in a minute. And actually, I'm going to make a couple more cuts. So now this one, if we wanted it to fit on a signature that has about this size page, this is about 5.5 inches wide, I still would like to have I want it to go all the way across. So I want my pocket to be about 5.5 inches. So I'm going to do a little bit less because I don't like my pockets to get stuck in the binding or anything like that. So we're going to make it 5.25 inches wide. Now, to make it 5.25 inches wide, I want to leave a 1/2 inch fold allowance on either side, just like we left a 1/2 inch on the bottom, so that our pocket can hold a little bulk. So let me show you what I mean. So this one I'm going to cut, we want it to be 5.25 inches wide. I'm going to add 1 inch. So I'm going to cut it down to 6.25 inches wide. And you can see that I was trying to, kind of get this pocket with this nice flower in the middle. If you're doing collage, you don't need to worry about that, what's going in the middle. But if you are using some decorative pages, you can certainly incorporate them into your journal. So now you can see I got my scoreboard out. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple marks on this one. So if I leave it like this, and if I wanted to glue it down, it would be too big for the page. So what I'm going to do is around 3 sides, I'm going to make a 1/2 inch score. So I'm going to make a score on this side. We're going to decide which way is up. And we're going to make a score on the bottom. And then we're going to make a score on the other side. So now you can see I have scores on 3 sides of my pocket. And what I'm going to do before I do any folding is I'm going to do a little bit of cutting. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out these corners where my score lines have crossed on both sides. And then I'm also just going to make a couple of cuts there so that my folds don't show when we create our pocket. Now, when I cut them out, I like to cut them out, giving myself a little bit of overage on each side. So I'm going to cut from an angle into the corner, and then I'm going to cut from an angle out. So you can kind of see what I got there. And that whole corner that I said we were going to cut out, we cut out, but I left a little bit extra. So let me show you again. I'm going to start from an angle out to the corner, and then I'm going to angle it out to the end. Okay, and then the only other 2 cuts I want to make is just making a little angle cut here at the top, because once again, I don't want, when I fold it, I don't want that to show at the top of my pocket. So now that I have all my cuts done, I'm just going to fold these 3 sides in. And once again, this pocket is done. Now, I just want to say the reason that I do this instead of just making the pocket the size that I want and gluing it down is because leaving these little fold gives you some weight inside your pocket so that you don't have to just put one card or one tag. You could put several and it's not going to pull apart for you. Sorry about that. My daughter just came home. She was saying hello. So once again, we have these fold allowances on the back. When you glue it down just on the folds, because once again, you would put your glue just on this flap, and this flap. And when you glue it down, now your pocket, you can actually stuff it with some stuff. So this one isn't glued down right now, but you would be able to put in postcards and tags and all sorts of things, and it would really allow you to get a lot of stuff in that pocket. So once again, this is just another option of things that you could do with the pocket. So there's that one. Okay, the next pocket that we're going to do is a library pocket. And a library pocket is a pocket that has kind of a back that's higher than the front of the pocket. So once again, this is a very simple pocket to create, and you can do it several different ways. First though, because I'm going to be using this vintage paper, I am going to glue it together. And I like to sew these kinds of pockets, so I'm not going to glue to the ends. I'm just going to basically glue the middle down so that it stays together while I'm folding, and then I will be sewing it to really hold it in place. And this is certainly something you could do, you know, as you're sitting on the couch in front of the TV to prep things, is to glue your 2 pages together so that then you'd have a whole stack of these, and then you could come back and do some folding, and then you could batch sew them as well. So this is all stuff that can be batched so that you have lots of items ready for you to collage, decorate, and maybe with a digital kit or something like that to put into your journal. Okay, so let's make this one. So this is our simple library pocket, and it kind of looks like this. I am going to cut off some of the edges on this one just for a different look, and I'm going to use my straight edge again. Since I have this older book page, I really don't want anything to tear, so I'm just going to use this straight edge, my craft knife. And I'm just going to even it up by kind of taking off the same amount on the other side. But that's the nice thing about these pockets too, is that you can make them any size that you want. I mean, you could just have completely cut this piece of paper in half and made 2 very small pockets if you had some, you know, tickets or something like that you wanted to put in them. Okay, so now that I have my back paper ready to go, all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold up the bottom, and you could certainly do it the other way if you wanted to, meaning you could start with the paper upside down and fold it so that the bottom is right side up. I'm probably going to be collaging on my envelope or my pocket here, so I don't need to worry about which way the words are, or I don't want to worry about which way the words are. So all I'm doing here is I'm folding up the bottom, lining up the edges, and I'm just looking at what I think looks nice in terms of where I put it. So I think I have about 1.5 inches here, but you could certainly do more or less on that if you wanted to. And then to secure this, we're just going to sew around the edge. And I'm going to do a zigzag stitch, but you could certainly do a straight stitch as well. So I'll be right back and I'll show you what that looks like. And we're back, and you can see I just stitched around the edge. I have a nice pocket right here, and when I put it into my signature, you can glue just these 3 sides if you'd want to. So let me do it over here. You can glue this side, this edge, and this edge. So when you put it down, you'd actually have a double pocket. So if you leave the top open when you glue it down, you have a pocket up here and a pocket down here for your items. You could also glue it all the way together. You could also leave a side pocket. So if you glued the top one side and the bottom and left the other side open, you could have a side pocket here too. So there's lots of options even after you make pockets on what you can do with them. And of course you can ink all of these things before you do any sewing or gluing or whatever you would like as well. But that's our basic library pocket. So let's do a little bit different version of the library pocket. Okay, here's another version of the library pocket. And before I get started, I am going to cut off this rough edge. So I'm going to use my straight edge again, and I'm just going to cut, just barely cut the edge of that off. And these are not glued yet, these 2 pages. So I'm just going to carefully cut the edge off there so that I have some straight edges for this one. And then for this one, I do want to glue them together just like I did for the other book page. But this time when I glue them, I'm going to glue the entire sheet. And actually I need to, well, let me go ahead and glue the entire sheet and then we'll talk about cutting. So this one I'm going to do from edge to edge to make sure I have glue covering the entire paper. And I'm going to try and line these up before I push anything down. I usually get that wrong, but that's okay. All right, so we have our 2 pages glued together. And I'm just giving them a little heat so that my glue stick will activate here and stick for me when we start gluing and folding and cutting and all that good stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do with this one is we're going to use the scoreboard, and we're going to decide how wide we want the pocket to be. So right now my pocket is a little over 5 inches, and I think I want this pocket to be, let's see, I want it to be about 3.5 inches. So that doesn't help me figure out how much I have to take off, but let's see, if I do 1 inch on each side, so I have 5 1/8, 4 1/8, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3 1/4. Okay, well, let's do that because that makes it easy. So we're just going to do 1 inch on each side. If you want to be more exact, make sure your starting paper is, you know, sort of at an exact place so that it's easier to kind of do that. So I think actually instead of 1 inch, I'm just going to go down 1/8. So I'm doing 7/8 on the sides, and I'm going to do both sides at 7/8. And then what we need to decide is how far up we want the page to come. So this page is about 8 1/4 inches. And I think I want about, let's see, let's have about a 3 inch pocket. So if I come up 1, 2, 3, let's do 3.5 and see what that does. So I'm going to do this at 4 3/4. And then I have 3 folds here. So the first fold brings our pocket up. And then the other folds, let me move this out of the way so you can see a little bit better. The other folds we're going to wait to fold until we cut off what we don't need. So for this other pocket, all we're going to need is the bottom part. We want to take these rectangles from the side and we're going to cut those off. Now we're kind of going to do this in the same way that we cut the other one. We're going to start at an angle before the fold, and then we're going to cut this entire rectangle off at the top. So start at an angle, go into where my score lines cross, and then cut the entire, and you could do this if you're good at lining things up on a cutting board, you could certainly do it that way too. So you see how I cut that entire rectangle off with an angle at the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start at the top this time, and I'm going to cut that rectangle off at the fold or at the score that we made. And when I get to where my lines cross, I'm just going to cut a little angle into there. And then the other thing that I like to do is I like to do the angle at the top too. So once again, I'm just going to cut a little corner of this off so that when we do our folds, they don't show. Okay, so now we're going to fold. I'm just going to fold the sides in so that they're ready to go. But what we're going to do with this one is we're going to fold it up and fold the flaps into the back. So you can see this is a little bit different. We're going to be securing our envelope on the back with these flaps here. So this one, because I think they look kind of cool, I'm just going to do a little bit of distressing right at the top. And actually, I think I want to cut a notch into this one, so I'll have to distress again. But if you start, you take your circle punch, you can make a little notch in there. And I'm not sure I quite got it in the center, but I think it'll be okay. It's pretty close. And then when we fold it up, you can see I have a neat little notch right there. And then to glue this one together to get it ready to go, I'm just going to use my art glitter glue here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on my side flaps and then fold them over and hold them down for just a second while it dries. And now you can see we have our library pocket here. And I don't know if I have a tag that'll fit in here, but let's see. Yep. So you can see the tag fits right into there. And once again, you can glue this down to your page. You can do the 3 sides again if you want to have a double pocket, or you could glue the whole thing. And you could do a side pocket on this one too, where you would glue the top, this one side and the bottom, and have a side pocket. I think this is a great one to do while you're sitting in front of the TV, because you can be gluing and folding and cutting right there. There's not too many tools that you need to get a bunch of these ready to go for your next journal. Okay, are you guys ready for our next pocket? This pocket, we're going to be doing this really easy, but I think it's really cute, triple pocket. So this is going to give us lots of pockets to put all sorts of ephemera in. So you could really stuff this one if you wanted to. So I'm going to start with this one page from my Flowering Plants book because I want the pocket to be smaller, so I can use this one page to make this pocket. So I believe that this page is 11 inches long. So I'm going to cut it in half. And then we'll have a 5.5 inch pocket. Now, I do want to, some of these ends are a little bit, I don't know, wispy. So I am just gonna cut just maybe 1/8 of an inch off of there to make sure we don't have any things flying around. So I'm gonna do the same thing on this one, just about 1/8 of an inch on there. Okay, so now to make this pocket, you can see I have one that's kind of decorative and one that's not, but it's really not gonna matter too much because not much of these pages will be showing. So I'm gonna use this one as my base page, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold up the bottom maybe 1 inch or so. Actually, it looks like it's maybe more like 1.5 inches, just about. And then all I'm going to do with my second one is I'm going to line up where I want the top pocket to be with my page. And once again, I'm doing this all just by sight. I'm just guesstimating it. So I want this top pocket to be about the same height as my bottom pocket. So I want it to be about 1.5 inches down. And then I'm going to fold up the bottom so that the bottom one is about halfway in between the bottom pocket and the top pocket. And once again, I'm totally just eyeballing this. So there you go. So now I have this one folded at a different one. And then to make my pockets, I'm just going to put them together just like that. So now I have a small pocket at the bottom, a little bit bigger pocket here, an even bigger pocket here, and then if you wanted to put this on the page, once again, you could leave the top open for another pocket. And this one, again, I like to sew just because I think it holds it together better, but you could also glue this as well. You just have to be sure that you glued at every stage of your pocket. You know, you'd have to make sure you went and glued each side of each pocket. You wouldn't have to glue anything at the bottom because your bottom page would hold everything together, but you would need to be sure to glue each level of the pocket there. So, and as I'm looking at this, it's going to drive me crazy, but I didn't cut my pages straight. So I'm going to line these up and cut them so that they're straight, because I would drive myself absolutely bananas if it wasn't straight. So there we go. Look at that. And I'm going to be right back and give this a sew, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. You can see I did a straight stitch around this one, and I just wanted to show you where all the pockets are. So I have one at the bottom that's very small. This nice big tag is probably too big for that, but then again, if you want to see the decoration, it might be perfect. Then I have another pocket right back here, a little bit bigger. Another pocket back here, even bigger. And so I can put all sorts of stuff in this pocket. Now you can see I did distress ink the edges of the pockets just to give them a little differentiation, but you could certainly go into these and put your notches as well if you wanted to do that too. And once again, inside of our book, you can glue this together. You can glue it right on. You could leave the top open so that you have even another pocket. So you could have 4 pockets here, however you'd like to do that. But this one's all ready to go. Let's on to the next. Okay, our next pocket, we are going to make kind of that trifold coin envelope type pocket with a bottom flap. I'm going to be using about half of the page of one of those flowering plants pages, but you could also use old book pages for this too. The only thing I would mention if you do that is make sure you've got your double layer glued together, because you really don't, doing this one, you really want to be sure you have a nice layer so that it doesn't fall apart or tear on you. So I'm going to be using my scoreboard for this one. And you certainly don't have to. You could just fold them together however you want. And actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's make this really easy. So all I'm going to do is, I know I kind of want this flower to be in my pocket somewhere. So I'm going to make it kind of short on that side. My fold is going to be short on this side so that I know I'm getting my flower where I want it. And then you could make it, you know, as wide or as short as you want, but you do have to make sure your 2 folds overlap. So I'm going to just have them overlap maybe about a ½ inch or so. And I'm going to hold that down while I give my sides a crease. And you can see, you know, we weren't measuring at all, and we have a nice size pocket that would fit a tag or a note card just fine. And now we need to make our bottom flap. And so for this, you also need to fold up from the bottom however far you want to make the depth of the pocket you want it to be. So I'll also do this one by hand, but this probably would be even easier to do on the scoreboard just to make sure it's straight. But I'm just going to fold it up. It looks like maybe I have about 3/4 of an inch or so here. But you could do it smaller or you could do it bigger. So once again, we have crossing lines from our folds, and we're going to be cutting some things out. So where our rectangles are at the corners are what we're going to cut out, and we're going to leave the flap in the middle. And we're going to make sure we have our angles done as well. So for my fold over here, I'm going to cut until I get to the corner, and then I'm going to cut myself a little angle. And then when I cut this one out, I'm going to start with the angle and then cut the rectangle off at this side. Now I don't need to angle the tops because that's just going to be the back of my pocket. So when I glue these down and glue this up, looks like I didn't quite get off all of the fold here. So I'm gonna just trim off a little bit more so that I don't have problems when I'm folding it. There we go. So you can see I have my 2 flaps here, and then this flap will just come up and it'll make a nice pocket right here. And we can put a notch in this one if you want. You certainly don't have to. And this one, since I am very bad on camera judging the middle, I'm going to try to do it with a mark. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 inches wide. So I'm just going to make a little mark at my 2 inch here. And I think I'm going to try a small circle. I think that'll be fun on this one. So I'm going to line this up as best I can for just making a little notch, a little half circle there, and pop that out. And while we're here, let's go ahead and distress it too. I know that you guys haven't seen me distress enough in this video, and I know you were just waiting for more. And I'm just going to do the tops of the back too. You certainly don't have to if you're going to glue it down or whatever. Okay, and so to secure this one, I'm going to use my glitter glue again. I'm just going to look and see, you know, since this one has a little bit of a ripped edge, I'm going to make this my outer edge. And so I'm just going to put my glue on the outer edge fold and put that down. Whoops. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my bottom flap. And once again, if you make this smaller, you'd have a taller envelope. It's up to entirely, or I'm sorry, a taller pocket, but that's entirely up to you. And so now once you have your flap glued and folded, you can see we have this cute little pocket with a nice little flower on there that you could put on your journal pages. And just like all of the other ones, depending on where you glue to put it on, you could leave a pocket at the top, you could put it to the side and leave a side. You could even, I know this is going to be crazy, but you could glue just 2 sides of this. So if you glued down this side and across the bottom, you could make a corner tuck pocket so that you would have space here to tuck something behind and then to put something up here. So you'd have the bottom glued and the side glued, and you could just slip things in as a tuck spot as well. So lots of options for this pocket. Okay, and we've got one more to do, so let's go to it. Okay, for our last pocket, we're going to be doing a double pocket that looks a lot like the library pocket, but it's a little bit different, and I'll show you how. So I have this, I'm going to be using this book page from my Mushrooms and Fungi book, which I love all the illustrations on, but I'm only going to use one of these pages to make this. So I'm going to cut this one off because this is the one I want to use. And I'm going to be using my craft knife again because this is another one of those pages that can get caught up and like that. And I don't want it to, I'm going to be careful with it when I cut it. All right, close enough. We're going to be making some fold allowances, so that should be okay for this one. So, all right, so I have my page here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scoreboard to give us some scores as some guidelines as we do this. Now, this book page is a little over 4.5 inches wide and approximately 7.25 inches long. So for my side edges, I'm going to use, I'm going to do a 1/2 inch as my side folds. And now because this tore a little bit, I'm just going to be careful as I line it up against the side there and get it as straight as I can. So on my long sides, once again, just like we did with our library pocket, I'm going to do my 2 folds there. Now what I'm going to do is I want my pocket to kind of only go up to the bottom of these mushrooms so that I can see them. And that is, let's see, That's about 2.5 inches in. So if I look at that from 2.5 to 7.25, it's approximately 5 inches. It's a little bit less. So I'm just going to do like a 2 inch, and I'm going to do it this way. So from the bottom, I'm going to go up 2 and let's go 2.25 inches. And that should keep us within range. Yep, so that we don't cover up our mushrooms, which is just exactly what I wanted to do. So now, let me put my scoreboard away because that's all the scoring that we need to do. Now we have to cut out our folds. And this one is going to be very similar to the library card, where before on the library pocket we cut off the entire flap here. We're not going to do that because we're just going to give our little angles at the bottom. And we're going to cut a notch in the middle. So we're going to cut an angle up to where my scores cross, and then another little angle out. So we have a little triangle there in the middle. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, cut myself a little angle up to where my score lines cross, and then cut another little angle. And then once again, I'm going to angle at the top. Because this one, if we leave the fold allowances on both the top and the bottom of the pocket, then we can really stuff our pockets. So what we're going to do for this one is we're going to fold these over, and this is going to get glued here, but then the folds at the top we're going to fold back so that when you glue it onto your book page, you'll have a nice pocket that will allow you some stuffage up here so that you could really get some, a couple of different pockets, or if you have tags or something, you know, that have a lot of collage like fabric and lace and all this that I have, you're not going to have to worry about pulling that pocket away because the fold allowances will give us some room to stuff it a bit. So that's how we're going to do this one. So to attach this one very easily, I'm going to put some glue on my folds that we folded back on our bottom one. So when we fold that up, that's just going to go right there. And that's it. It's ready to go in your book. And when you're ready to go in your book, all you need to do is glue your 2 flaps down and then put it right in your book, and your bottom, sorry. 2 flaps in the bottom, because otherwise you'll have a hole in your pocket. You don't want a hole in your pocket. Okay, so this is our last pocket, and you can put that in your signature too. And once again, we could also add notches to both of these. We can distress it. I'll probably add some collage before this goes in a book because I think that would be a perfect place to add some collage, but I'll probably leave the back plain because of that nice illustration there. So that's it for our pockets. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like it if you did. Give me a comment if you'd like to see some more of this type of tutorial. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope that you'll do so now by hitting that subscribe button down below, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.